2017, the BC provincial election will be held on Tuesday, May 9. It is important for Muslims to participate in the election by way of voting, donating and volunteering to have their concerns addressed. The purpose to host the forum is to assist potential Muslim voters in the finding information about the issue in their respective Surrey, Guildford, Surrey, Fleetwood and Surrey Valley ridings. Before we begin, if we have not registered, please register to inform of future programs and events. Help us better understand the Muslim voters' priorities by filling out the surveys. If you have any questions, please write them down. Questionnaire forms are available from the table or just raise your hands. The volunteers will come to you. To help us set the scene of today's program, we are joined by our Director of Guildford Islamic Culture Center and the nominated two candidates. Welcome our candidates from the Surrey Valley ridings. Sergi Chima, raise your hand please that people know that you are there. Bruce Ralston, BC NDP. We have Gary Beck, BC NDP. We have Jody Murphy, BC Green Party, Team Binama, BC Green Party, Jagru Barar, BC NDP. Am I missing it? Rita from Hall, BC Green Party. You are all very welcome here on Guildford Islamic Center. It is hoped that the program today will help us to make an informed choice before we cast our ballot in the 2017 provincial election on a Tuesday, May 9th. Now we would like to call upon Akasha to recite the Quran with translation. Akasha, can you please?
الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم قومهم ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. Blessed is he in whose hand is dominion, and he is over all things competent. He who created death and life to test you, as to which of you is best indeed, and he is the exalted in might and forgiven, and who created 7 heavens in layers. You do not see in the creation of the most merciful any inconsistency. So return your vision to the skies. Do you see any breaks? Then return your vision twice again. Your vision will return to you humbled while it is fetid. And we have certainly beautified the nearest heaven with stars, and have made from them what is thrown at the devil, and have prepared for them the punishment of the blaze. And for those who disbelieve in their Lord is the punishment of hell, and rest in the destination. When they are thrown into it, they hear from it a dreadful inhaling while it boils up, and almost bursts with rage. Every time a company is thrown into it, its keepers ask them, Did there not come to you a warner? Then they will say, yes, a wonder had come to us, but we denied and said, Allah has not sent down anything. You are not but in great error. And they will say, if only you had listened or reasoning, we would not be among the companions of the place.
Jazakallah khair. Bless you. Now, I would like to welcome you to our Guildford Islamic Center and hope you are as excited as me to welcome the candidates and to hear what they have to say. My brothers and sisters, we are proud to sponsor an event organized by Al-Amin Post newspaper and feel that this is about time that the Muslim we take a proactive role and interest in the politics and affairs of our great province, British Columbia. Guildford Islamic Center is cornerstone for Muslims living in the Guildford Valley and Guildford area where most Muslims reside within close proximity. It is formed like this that will help us understand the issue before we actually go out and vote. Just a few housekeeping rules. The men's washrooms are located in the back of the house. One is this side, one is on that side. And the ladies' washrooms are in the ladies' side, it's on the right corner, very right far corner. Refreshments are being served, as if somebody wishes to take some refreshment are there, you are welcome. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Sikandar, who is the moderator for the debate, to say a few words on behalf of the moderators to today form and lay the rules and format of the debate. Mr. Sikandar.
Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you. Thank you everybody for taking the time out to come here to show that we are interested in the election process. I know more people will be coming, and still early in the afternoon, early in the evening. Some people must be coming from work. But I'm sure all the candidates that I'll meet, and we do have other media, local media. There will be more Muslim media coming, and they are going to send the news and all the answers to the questions and all the issues discussed to the people at large. To make sure that we have the maximum questions answered in less time, we do have three rules to follow. Number one, all the questions need to be addressed or targeted at the issue, not on any individual candidate. And all the questions must be in written form. There will be no verbal questions asked. That's to ensure a respectful way of asking questions. And questions might be edited by us if they need to be. And if you don't have any questions, you can raise your hand. Somebody will bring you a form to write your questions. In the first round, each candidate will introduce themselves. They will be given 2 minutes. In the second round, each provincial party will designate one person to speak on their party's behalf, and they will have 4 minutes to speak on their party's behalf, one person from each party. In the third round, in ascending order, the candidates will be asked by the moderators selected questions from the audience. The candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, and only one candidate from the remaining party will have 1 minute for rebuttal. In the fourth round, the moderators will ask one question to all the candidates. In one word, describe yourself. Before closing with the remarks for 1 minute each. So in the end, you'll have 1 minute to say anything else and describe yourself in one word. If time permits, there will be follow-up questions on the topic of discussion. Now, to introduce, now we can have an introduction of all the candidates. So we'll have battle, and in ascending order we'll have the introduction. 2 minutes each candidate.
I'm number one.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Number two.
I'm
Gary.
Bruce.
Number three.
Three always wins.
Six. Six.
Okay, number one. Sergi, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Please go ahead.
Am I starting? Is that what you're
Introduce yourself. Anything about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. Is it on?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and I want to. Feels like it's getting full on. Assalamu alaikum. I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. I know it's a beautiful, gorgeous day outside, and there's better things to be doing than coming here and sitting here listening to us. My name is Sarji Chima, and I'm the BC Liberal candidate for Surrey Whalley. I'm born and raised here in Canada. I've lived here all my life. I moved to Surrey in 1984, and I've been in Surrey since then. I chose to live in Surrey Whalley about 20 years ago, 21 years ago, and I live in the heart of the city centre of Whalley, and I'm proud to live in Whalley. Although there's always a stereotypical names, you're a Surrey girl. All my life that I've been here, basically what I've done is serve the community. I've been working with the federal government for the last 20 years, serving the community, listening to the concerns of my clients, and assisting them and helping them. Furthermore, I'm a leader and I'm a voice for my union. I am the president of my local. I sit on the Human Rights Committee for the Public Service Alliance of Canada. I sit on the Women's Committee for the Public Service Alliance of Canada. And many other committees I sit on with Canada Employment and Immigration's Union, as well as the Public Service Alliance of Canada. I just spent the last year being the voice for my members for my union and helped in negotiating and ratifying a collective agreement for 70,000 employees across the country with Treasury Board. I'm very pleased to say that our negotiations went very well, and I was the voice for my union members. I want to continue being a public servant. Sorry, I didn't notice you were there. And that's why I'm running, so that I can continue being a public servant for all British Columbians.
Thank you. Just something which I missed, that we do have a youngster to time each candidate. When it's 30 seconds left, he will raise his hand with 30 seconds on it. When 10 seconds are left, he will raise another one, and then we'll just try to finish it up, and then time will be up. And next one is Gary Bed. Please introduce yourself in 2 minutes.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I'm pleased to be with you tonight. It's a great opportunity for us to listen to you. Sometimes I know that we tend to speak more than we listen, so it's an exciting opportunity for me and us tonight to hear from you. I originally am from Ontario, where I was born and raised, and when I joined the Mounted Police, I moved to British Columbia. I always tell the story that my original intent was to be drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that went terribly awry, and so I picked my second choice, which was to be a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which was a wonderful experience, and I spent 38 and a half years doing that. When I introduce myself, I always refer to the important things in my life, and my family, my wife, and 2 children are very important to me. And very recently, I became a proud grandparent of both a girl and a boy. Professionally, I spent all my life in police work. And interestingly enough, the values of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police are very similar values to what we expect from our society. Our values, our core values, we call them, are honesty, integrity, compassion, respect, accountability, and professionalism. And those core values of the RCMP have become the core values of my life. I try to live my life so that all of those values are included. I had the great fortune here in Surrey to start community dialogue with the diverse communities, and I was in charge of the diversity unit at the Surrey RCMP, where I met many of you. So I look forward tonight to hearing your thoughts about what should be important to us.
Thank you. Bruce Ralston.
Great, thanks very much, Sikander. My name is Bruce Ralston. I have been the MLA for Surrey Whalley, elected 3 times and seeking another term. My roots in Surrey are deep, and I've lived in the riding since 1987, and in a house on 115th since 1990. So I know the community well, and one of the great things about Surrey is that it's growing, it's vibrant, it's open, it's tolerant. Many of the things that we sometimes hear about Surrey that are negative generally turn out, in my experience, to be false. And one of the important growth in Surrey, areas of growth, has been the growth of and the rise of the Muslim community in Surrey generally. Very rapidly growing and increasingly participating in the community, whether it's in the various mosques, whether it's in the schools. Iqra Islamic School was in my riding and is now in Gary's riding, and I've participated there in many events. And so I think that we will talk about many of the economic issues that concern people, the cost of living, the decline and decay of public services under the BC Liberals. But I want to thank you for inviting me here, and I look forward to a debate that we're going to have shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Now, Judy Murphy, please introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Jody Murphy, and I'm the BC Green Party candidate for Surrey Guildford. I was born on the Canadian prairies in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I grew up there, and I moved to BC's Lower Mainland almost 25 years ago now. I love living in Surrey. My experience includes a Bachelor of Science degree from UBC in geology, physics, and math. I also took a considerable amount of extra credit classes in philosophy, literature, and women's studies. Following my studies, I went to work as a lab technician and later moved into a management role. I first worked supporting BC's mining industry with lab work, and then I worked for over a decade at a local family-owned business in Delta, providing technical services to the pulp and paper industry. Although I'd mostly studied sciences, my employer noticed that I have some sharp business instincts, and he encouraged me to develop those. As a senior manager there, I advised on strategic planning and change management. I visited mills all across BC, and I dealt with customers from around the globe. And helping that company of 40 years in a very challenged resource sector, the pulp and paper sector, to try and secure a continued future for that business and the many staff, young and old, who work there. As a supervisor and manager, and as a community citizen, my natural instinct is to help people and solve problems creatively and responsibly. And as a voter, I agree with the BC Green Party's belief that government's job is to support and protect the well-being of the citizens it governs. It is definitely not true that all parties have that priority. That is what makes the BC Green Party different. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Tim Benema, and please forgive me for mispronouncing your last name.
Hi, thank you. So it's Tim Biddema. I'm the Green Party candidate for Surrey Fleetwood. I'm the father of 4 adult children. I work as an engineering manager in an engineering company in Vancouver. I've been in Fleetwood since 2000, and I've lived in Surrey since 1990. In the spring of 2013, I was trying to decide who to vote for. And so I went to the internet and I looked at all the different parties' platforms, and I stumbled upon the Green Party. I did not vote for the Green Party before, and I saw that their party platform included, on the very first, included a whole list of principles. And I didn't find that in any of the other parties. And so that got me thinking, you know, in our country and in most Western democracies, we believe we should separate church and state, and it makes sense. But it seems to me that a lot of the parties have only one principle, and that is to be re-elected. So I was very thrilled to see a party that seemed to have a whole list of principles that would found their policies. So why does it matter? In this election, we know that some of the parties are accepting donations from all kinds of different sources, corporations and so on, and that matters because all these corporations actually are getting paid by the consumer. And so, but these consumers don't have a voice, even though the corporations are making the donation. So what it takes then is integrity at that point to say, well, we have a principle, let's follow that principle. And that's why I'm glad the Green Party's not only has principles, but also has integrity to follow them. So in this election, we decided that we would not take any donations except for individual people. And for me, that is very meaningful. I'm very glad to be here tonight and listen to you, and looking forward to the rest of the evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Mr. Guildford to introduce himself.
Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon him. Mr. President of the Islamic Culture Center and the members of the center, thank you very much, first of all, for organizing this debate. I'm really glad to see so many of you here, because democracy is very important, and participation in democracy is even more important. So thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the Muslim community for the extraordinary role and contribution you have made to this province, to make this province a better place, and you should be proud of that. My name is Guildford. I'm the former NDP MLA, now the NDP candidate from Surrey Fleetwood. Surrey is my home. Since I came to Canada, since I came to BC, I've been living here almost now 22 years. But before I came from India, and I have a master's in master's in philosophy from India, and subsequently from Canada, I did master's in public administration from Manitoba. And I'm also a former member of the Indian basketball team. Surrey has given a lot to me. I got married here with my beautiful wife, Rajmant Brad. We raised 2 beautiful children, Noor Brad and Fateh Brad. And they were both born at Surrey Memorial Hospital, and they're going to the public school system in Surrey. So I'm deeply committed to the city of Surrey to make this city a better place for all of us. And I just want to conclude my remarks by saying that I'm part of NDP because NDP believes in equality, justice, fairness, inclusivity, and all opportunities for all Canadians. So that's very important. Those are the values I believe in, and that's why I'm part of the NDP. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I request Rita from home to introduce himself.
Thank you. Last but not least, I hope. Thank you very much for allowing me to come here tonight and to let you know more about the Green Party and about our fabulous candidates. I am the Green Party candidate for Surrey Whalley. I grew up in South Surrey, White Rock area. I'm a graduate of Peace Arch Elementary and Earl Marriott Secondary, and I went to Kwantlen College in Newton when it was still Douglas College back then, and I graduated from SFU with a degree in communications. I have made Victoria my home for the last 10 years. The party asked me to run here, and I'm very serious about serving this community if I am elected. I have a really diverse work background, having worked in the nonprofit, education, and high-tech sectors throughout my life.
And some highlights include being the sustainability coordinator for the University of Victoria. I was a program coordinator for Pivot Legal Society's Downtown East Side Calendar Project. I was the project manager for the Rainforest Solutions Project, which is a multi-stakeholder organization, a network of environmental organizations, First Nations, the province, and the forestry sector working to protect BC's Great Bear Rainforest. I have also volunteered extensively in the communities where I have lived. I have sat on the boards of directors of, including being the chair of Better Environmentally Sound Transportation in Vancouver. I've sat on the provincial council of the BC Green Party and the CRD, Capital Regional District Roundtable on the Environment. I've also volunteered on many political campaigns for the Green Party, the NDP, and the Federal Liberals, but I have been drawn to the Green Party the last few years because it better suits my personal values. I believe as your MLA, I will be a fresh, bold voice for Surrey Wally. After 16 years of failed public policies of the BC Liberal government, I believe people are ready for a change, and I would like to work towards that change with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. We do have some questions here. Some questions came through email, some from here from the floor. I request anyone who has any questions, please, if you have a form, write questions on it. If you don't have a form, raise your hand, and somebody will come with the form to you. And we can have, this is the time when we have the chance to ask questions to our...
Opening statements.
We are encouraging more questions.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask for this platform. So again, if you have any questions, please write down the questions, and we'll compile the questions here. Now, from each party, each party amongst themselves, they can decide who is going to be the party spokesperson, and you have 4 minutes to introduce party's platform. Yes. We can first decide who's going to talk, and then one person, we can start from BC Green and then go this way.
Okay,
start from my side.
That's fair.
So one person can talk on party's behalf for 4 minutes. Please.
So I've been delegated to speak on behalf of the BC Green Party. Thank you for the opportunity to take a few minutes to talk to you about the BC Green Party. A lot of you probably don't know too much about us. We'd like to make a pitch to be the viable third option against the status quo established parties in this province, the NDP and the Liberals. Rising crime, the inability to bring criminals to justice, the fentanyl crisis, homelessness, increasing mental illness, and decaying infrastructure could all have been mitigated if the government had been prepared to invest in the health and well-being of British Columbians. If the economy is doing so well as Christy Clark claims, how can it be that BC has the highest child poverty rate in Canada and Surrey some of the highest child and youth poverty rates in British Columbia? We think this is shameful. The fentanyl crisis has escalated out of control and continues to kill people every day, and more people are living on the streets. At the same time, outside of urban areas, old-growth forests are being cut down only to have the wood exported as raw logs. Drinking water is polluted by mines and industrial development. The so-called pipe dream of liquefied natural gas development has yet to materialize and likely never will because of changing market conditions. The BC Liberals, as Tim mentioned, receive millions of dollars each year in donations from corporations, many of them foreign. They are also currently under RCMP investigation for accepting illegal donations from lobbyists. I think it's fair to say that the people of BC have had enough, and it's time for a change in government. The NDP, on the other hand, have repeatedly failed to articulate a vision of change that the majority of British Columbians can trust. While there are many good, hardworking people within the NDP, they have been stuck in the opposition for so long, many people cannot envision what it would be like to see them in power. The NDP have also received the largest single donation in BC history from the US-based Steelworkers Union. The same union is paying the salaries of the top campaign staff. The BC Greens are not beholden to big corporate donors of the Liberal Party, nor the big union interests of the BC NDP. We are funded entirely by individuals like yourselves. We have banned corporate and union donations since last September, and the number of new people who have donated to our party has gone up by 60%. So here we have some of the differences between the BC Greens and the two major parties, but it certainly doesn't end there. People are clearly looking for a different way to do politics, and that is what the Green Party offers. So how is it that we're different? Despite what you may hear, we are not a one-issue party. And while we view protecting the natural environment for not only our own health and well-being, but for that of future generations as a top priority and the lens through which we define many of our policies, we are not only concerned with environmental protection. We understand that social and environmental problems have their roots in the same short-term thinking and profit imperatives of corporate interests. Research from around the world shows that a healthy functioning environment is a key determinant of human well-being. Our platform includes an innovative suite of social programs based on best practices from around the world applied to a local context. We understand that social issues such as homelessness and addictions are closely related to the lack of mental health services and early intervention programs in schools and to income insecurity. We need a holistic approach to solving these growing problems in our society that ultimately affect everyone. We also need to focus our public and advanced education systems on giving people the knowledge and skills they need for a changing world. And we know that young people today are likely to change jobs up to 10 times in their lives. That's why we will investigate changing the education system, such as shortening the time it takes to get a degree and relieving student debt. A vote for the BC Green Party is like making an investment in a sustainable future for yourselves and for generations to come. We hope you will join us. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to represent BC Liberal, Surgeon Chief.
It's about a strong BC and a bright future. That's our plan, and that's our vision for British Columbia. Since Christy Clark became the Premier in 2011, British Columbia has been on a roll. We are first in economic growth. We are first in economic development. And we have the lowest unemployment in Canada. We have been focused on creating jobs, growing a diverse economy, and controlling government spending and putting money in the pockets of people. Our plan is delivering results. We have a AAA credit rating. With the money that we save from the AAA credit rating is money that we can invest. Invest in infrastructure. Invest in quality health care. In ensuring that we have safe streets. But we cannot lose focus, and we're surrounded by a risk, a rising tide of protection south of the border. This is very important for us. It's more important than it's ever been, and we'll continue to stick to our plan that we have to move forward in the next 4 years. The election is about choices, about choice to move forward with today's BC Liberals, to continue to create growing jobs while controlling spending and keeping taxes low. Or we can go back to what happened in the 1990s, where 50,000 people moved out of BC. Many people lost their jobs. We need to think about this. We need to think hard. The BC Liberal government has a plan, has a vision to ensure that we continue to grow our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergi. And now, General Broad to represent MDP.
Assalamu alaikum once again. This election is very important for the people of British Columbia, and particularly for the people of Surrey. The city of Surrey is the fastest growing community in the province. We welcome over 1,200 newcomers every month. But BC Liberals have completely ignored the needs of our growing community for the last 16 long years. Christy Clark is working for the top 2% wealthy and well-connected. and she's not working for the people of Surrey. She gave $1 billion tax break to the top 2%, and she wants to continue that tax break for next 4 years. And hardworking people of Surrey are paying the price. They increased hydro rates, ICBC premiums. They tripled tuition fee for our children and doubled MSP fee. They put massive tolls on the people of particularly Surrey on Portman Bridge, Golden Ear Bridge, and ignored the public transit and bus service for our growing community. They did nothing while the price of housing and rent went through the roof. They did absolutely nothing for 7,000 children who don't have real classroom in our education system. They failed to improve the wait times at Surrey Memorial Hospital. You must have heard the story of 79-year-old who went to the hospital a few weeks ago, and she was on a wheelchair. She waited for 6 hours for a bed which was not available, and she passed away. Under Christy Clark BC Labour, small businesses, taxi industry, trucking, and construction are all under attack. So it's very clear the Christy Clark economy is not working for the people. It's working for the top 2% people. It's about time that you get a break. Rich people of BC have had their premier. It's about time that you have a premier who will work for you. And that is NDP leader John Horgan. Election is about choices. I agree with that. And we have 3 key priorities. The first one, that the NDP government will make life more affordable. Under that, we are going to eliminate tolls on Portman Bridge and Golden Ear Bridge because it's unfair for the people of Surrey to pay the toll for Christy Clark debt. We are going to freeze BC Hydro rates. And BC Liberal government they have planned to increase the ICBC 42% if they win the election again, but we are going to stop that. We will eliminate MSP in steps, and we are going to introduce a $10 a day daycare. So that's all under affordability. And then number 2, improve services people depend on. Healthcare. NDP government will open neighborhood urgent care centers to reduce wait times at Surrey Memorial Hospital. Education. NDP government will build new schools for 7,000 kids who don't have real classrooms. Good jobs, we are going to create 95,000 construction jobs, well-paying jobs by building new schools, hospitals, road, and daycare spaces. And we will do all that under a balanced budget. I'm saying under a balanced budget. You must remember that during the last election, Christy Clark promised you the moon. And that was, in the last election, the 3 mega project of LNG, $100 billion prosperity fund, debt-free BC, 100,000 jobs. In reality, absolutely nothing happened. No project, no revenue, no job. And the debt under Christy Clark has gone from $41 billion to $71 billion. Highest debt under any premier. So it is your judgment. You can't trust Christy Clark what she says just before the election because she does completely the opposite after the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagrup. Now we'll start the session, third session. We'll start with the first question, which comes quite often. It's about the rise of Islamophobia. There have been incidents of racist fires distributed around towns, hijabs pulled out from just girls, ladies, doing shopping, doing regular Canadian things, public mosque shooting. So what is your party's what's your party's plan to solve this problem or to help Muslims against Islamophobia? We can start from my side. We'll start with number 1, Sergey Shima, and then each party will have 1 minute to talk about the same as a rebuttal. So, sir, you have the first number to speak. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I just actually want some clarity now. So are we going by that when we're doing the speaking order? Because we're going by party, not by person, and that's by person. So is everybody speaking on the same question?
No. The questions are coming to in the speaking order, and the rebuttals will be in...
Based on party. So only two rebuttals. One?
So you get the question and they will get the answer.
Oh,
I mean,
so because I'm first, I get the first question, the second question will go to Gary, and the
Yeah.
third question will go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Question going
So rebuttal is only based on
I
party.
don't understand that.
But
That
question is
confuses
based
me.
on person.
But in the same sequence of the...
But that jumps because you're not in order, because you've got different people in different order. But that's
Yeah.
okay, no problem.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So everybody will get to answer a question.
No problem. So I know Islamophobia is a huge concern of mine. Being born and raised in Canada, I know what it's like to go through when people say things to you, racism. When I grew up, I used to go to school, and when I would go to school, people would plug their nose and say, "You Hindu, go back to where you came from." Well, where did I come from? I'm born in Canada. There's no place else I came from. So what we need to do as a community is we need to all work together. We need to have discussions. We need to have ways that we can take preventative measures ahead of time and provide awareness. This is not for one person alone. It's not for one community alone. We are a diverse country, and we need to all work together to ensure that we provide awareness. I do not believe in any type of racism, Islamophobia, or anything, and I'm very, very saddened to hear some of the things that have happened, what happened in Quebec. It shouldn't have happened. Sorry. And, and the same thing happened in the United States, where somebody went in there with a gun when people were praying in a temple and started shooting. Same thing happened in Quebec. This is not acceptable. And we as a community, and my BC Liberal Party, we will listen to everybody. We will be your voice, and we will be there, and we will help you to prevent this.
Thank you. Now for rebuttal, it could be any person from each party, so party members can decide.
Okay, Skander, I'm going to speak on behalf of the BC NDP. A couple of things. After the horrific shootings at the mosque in Quebec, and I think there was an outpouring of shock and sympathy for not only the Muslim community across the country, but for ourselves as a Canadian society. That's not the kind of society that we are, and that's not the kind of society that we want to be. I introduced a motion supported by my colleagues in the BC legislature condemning Islamophobia, because some people say that Islamophobia doesn't exist or that it's not a reality, and I think many people here will disagree that that is the lived experience of many people in the Muslim community here in Surrey. Finally, to address that, what we have proposed is that the BC Liberals axe the Human Rights Commission. That's a powerful body, not a tribunal, but a body for education and for intervening in the community and teaching people. And we would bring that back as if we were elected as government.
Thank you. And now from BC Green.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So one of the core values of the Green Party is that we're open to hearing people. I think it's important to be able to listen to people, and part of that is to change the democratic system so that you have proportional representation. Right now, you can have just a very small percentage of the population electing and giving control of the whole government with proportional representation. Everybody in the community will have a voice in Parliament, and I think that's critical to help support having more of a listening kind of Parliament rather than right now what we have is just two parties that are opposite from each other. They're not talking to each other. So that's why I think we have actually changed our democratic system so that we're more open to each other, both in Parliament but in society too.
Thank you, Tim. Now the question for Gary. It's about more education educating young minds about multiculturalism. Hate usually is a result of ignorance. Does your party have any plan to introduce multiple grades to students in schools so they know about others, that it's not just one type of people, there are people that have different faiths, and it's okay to have different faiths, or any plan?
Thank you. And I think in your question is part of the answer, because you acknowledge that hate and bigotry has its basis in ignorance. And the obvious answer to ignorance is education, which brings us to the point of the question. The BC curriculum in British Columbia already addresses, in some form, religious education. In other words, they touch on, in the secondary school system, some of the highlights of each of the major religions of the world. But I think that you can be assured that our party will be a champion for ensuring that education generally, not restricted to schools, but in our society, through groups like the BC Human Rights Council, which we will reestablish, will ensure that we have a system of ensuring that these kinds of ignorant acts, statements, or responses have no place in civil society. The only cure for ignorance is education, right? If people make uneducated opinions, it is because they are ignorant of the facts. So we fully support any program that will ensure that education is forefront in removing it.
Thank you. And now each party has 1 minute for rebuttal. So from BC Green.
Earlier in the introductions, you heard my colleague Tim refer to the BC Green Party's 6 core principles. That's also something that drew me to the BC Green Party. Those are principles upon which we base all of our plans and decisions. 3 of those 6 principles are respect for diversity, nonviolence, and social justice. So every part of our platform and every policy or decision we make respects those principles that our party holds dear. Specifically within our education platform for this election, we have committed early childhood education and free daycare to eliminate the barriers that keep children from participating in community-type activities. In this kind of a system, by the time children are at an age that they're reaching kindergarten, they've already had significant opportunity to be learning and playing alongside kids of many different cultures that live in their neighborhood. This helps build a lot of respect and understanding for diversity as we go forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we live in a diverse community, and in this diverse community, we want to treat each other with equally and with values. And respecting people's values is very, very important to us. Sorry, just lost my train of thought. So we celebrate different religions and different cultures to provide awareness to everybody in the community that we are all equal. I'm born in Canada, and I'm born as a Sikh. But I believe in all different religions. My kids went to Catholic school so they can practice the Catholic religion. We are all one, and we have one God, and we pray in different ways. Everybody needs to be treated with equality. In our school system, those are part of our curriculums, and that's what we enrich into our children, that we are all equal. And we will continue to ensure that we provide that awareness and that we are diverse and we all get involved in everybody's different cultures and learn from those cultures.
Thank you. Now the next question is about sex education in schools, especially elementary school, and funding for special needs students. Many of the ethnic communities especially Muslim community and some other communities, it is very touchy, very sensitive issue. There is let's say, wish or demand from the community, many members of the community, that it should be optional, not mandatory. Sex education, especially in elementary school, shouldn't be mandatory, it should be optional. Let parents choose if they want their kids to get exposed to it or not. And special needs student funding, it has been decreased significantly. Does your party have any plan to boost funding for special needs students in schools? We'll start with Bruce Ralston.
Thank you. I'm not aware that there is sex education for primary school students, and so I'm not really able to comment on that. Generally, I think in schools, in public schools, in any event, there is education about biology, which is the sources of life, whether it's animals, plants, or humans. So I have not heard that there is sex education for primary school students in the public system. I'm not familiar with what might be taking place in any of the independent schools either. So it's not something that I'm familiar with or that I really feel qualified to comment on.
Anything about special needs students?
Well, I think what has been done in terms of special needs students in recent years is a move that I support, which is integration of special needs students into the mainstream. It has come at, I think, some cost and expense. And really what has happened in the last 15 years is that the needs of students, like students with special needs, have not been respected because Christy Clark picked a fight with the BC Teachers Federation, fought it all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, and one of the areas of service that was cut was over that lengthy period of time was services for special needs students, which cost more to fund, and when the per pupil funding fell, those students were affected. So the BC Liberals have made a virtue out of the fact that the Supreme Court of Canada basically kicked them out of court and forced them to implement the collective agreement that was bargained 15 years ago. But a whole generation of students, including special needs students, lost out during that period of time, which is shameful. And I don't think Christy Clark and the BC Liberals can be relied upon to put the needs of the special needs students, indeed students in the public education system, first, given their track record.
Thank you.
So that's a really good question, and thank you for asking that, because when I went to school here, we didn't have sex education in the school systems, and I know they talked about it in the past, but I'm not sure what the curriculum is and if it's in there yet or not. But when I get elected as your MLA, and if these are some issues and concerns to you, I need you to bring them for me so I can take them to government caucus and I can voice those concerns. Because if there's people that do not want their children getting educated on sex and they want it to be optional, I need to work for them and address those concerns. And then when you talk about special needs students, being from a union, I'm actually glad that we had to go to the Supreme Court to come to a decision, because what that decision did now is helped us to have some rules and regulations that are in place for when we bargain. And from being on a bargaining team and just negotiating a collective agreement for 70,000 people across the country, I understand how important it is. So we have invested $740 million to the school system to ensure that we have the correct class compensation size. In addition, we're investing $217 million over the next 3 years.
Thank you.
So for the two parts of this question, the first one regarding the sex education for children in schools, I personally am in favor of parents having the option for children to be included or absent for that portion of the training or of the education. When I myself was going to school, there wasn't any sex education for primary school. It was mostly beginning around or before the time that children are typically hitting puberty, but even at that point, the courses were actually optional. So there were some kids who went to the library and read during that part of the teaching. And I think parents do have the right to have that choice for their kids. For the second part about education, specifically funding on special needs children, the recent commitment that Sarji mentioned for the Liberal government restoring some of the previously taken away funds for education, Green Party has committed to that plus basically double that amount, an additional $220 million in this first year. And in the long term, over the 4 years of our governing, that rises to over $1 billion extra over what is now. It is the biggest commitment in our platform is funding for education. That definitely involves having more teachers per student, smaller class size, and a much better learning environment for all of the students that are in our classrooms.
Now the next question is about funding for private schools. BC Liberals have promised to keep the funding for private schools or even increase it for private schools such as Khalsa School, BC Muslim, many other faith-based or just private schools. Would your party keep the current funding, increase it, or decrease it? Jody Murphy.
I get to do all the talking today. I just finished mentioning the commitment that the BC Green Party is making in their platform of the currently promised $200+ million from the BC Liberals, as well as an additional $220 million in this current year, rising to $1 billion extra by the end of the 4-year term that the BC Green Party hopes to be governing. Specifically on the question of independent schools, we proposed no changes to the current funding model for independent schools. The vast majority of these schools are offering parents choices about value education that they hold very important to them. And much of the dialogue that has people complaining about funds going to independent schools is a result of the fact that the public education has been underfunded. It has pitted parents against parents in their choice of where the tax dollars are going for education. And the Green Party believes that if public education is funded properly, then that dispute between parent choices goes away. So there is no plan on the Green Party platform to make changes to funding for independent schools.
Thank you. And now for rebuttal, start with NDP.
Well, NDP is fully committed to have the education system the best probably in the country. When NDP was there, our education system was the second best from the top, and now it is the second worst from the bottom. So we would like to invest in the education system. When it comes to the private school funding, we have made it very clear in our platform that there will be no change in the funding system. But I must say this, that there's a lot of fear-mongering going on outside there, particularly by the Liberal Party, that NDP will change it. We have made it absolutely clear in our platform that there will be no change in the funding of the private schools.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you had the answer ready because you said it at the beginning, but that was
If you have no comments, we'll move on.
yeah. I mean, you had asked a question on if you would change with the BC Liberal government, and these guys have answered. I mean, you already know my answer because you asked it, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the next question is for Chan Ganana. The NDP has promised that public style $10 a day child care. However, the child care spaces are scarce. How does your party plan to increase the number of spaces or tackle that child care space scarcity issue?
Well, I have to answer that in two parts, actually, because the first part is we're going to provide basically 25 hours of free daycare to anyone with children be underneath the age of 3. And then from 3 to 5, they'll be able to send their child to preschool. And but because we recognize that there's also value for people that want to take care of their children at home, we're also, for those people that make that choice, we say $500 a month to families that make that choice. But the second part of that is part of the reason why there's not enough spaces is that the child care workers don't get paid well. And to incentivize that, what we're going to have is a fair wage commission. So we're going to look at what is a fair wage for people in different positions. If the people that are in that line of work are compensated fairly, the more people will make a choice to do that, more spaces will become available.
Thank you.
I just want to know, where is the money going to come from to pay for this? We have a plan. We have a platform. We have a plan. We know where the money's going to come from. And from everybody else, I don't know where you're getting the money from.
Are we allowed to answer that? Well, just I think all of the parties up here have a fully funded platform. So I think the question is, if you're interested, you can go to our website. You can read our platform. It shows where the money's coming from. So it's simple as that, actually.
Can I? Great, thanks. And on behalf of the NDP. Well, to answer the Christy Clark spokesperson question that's been posed, where will the money come from? Her government gave a tax break of $250 million a year to the top 2%. That's people earning more than $150,000 net taxable income. They got a $250 million break. If you put that over 4 years, there's $1 billion. We will implement a child care plan in stages. It's a public system that works in Quebec. It started out at $10 a day. It has the advantages of early childhood education, which is really important. It also frees women to, in today's economy, sometimes 2 members of the family are required to work. And it pays for itself because they work and they generate income tax, and the amount of people receiving subsidies declines. So it's been studied by reputable economists in Quebec. It works, and it can be done here.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? No? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, my next question is for Jibril Kaur.
Developers in Vancouver, and she did not intervene into the market in a timely manner. We have a very good and maybe the biggest plan for building the affordable housing, which we are going to build 114,000 housing, that is affordable housing, non-profit housing, co-op housing, and that's the plan by the NDP, and that is part of our capital plan as well. As far as the MSP is concerned, you said, you're right, under the BC Liberals, they have probably more than doubled the MSP, and now they say we are going to give 50% back, and somehow that's a good thing, and the Premier Christy Clark wants pat at the back. It is them who actually increased the MSP. So we have made the commitment to eliminate MSP because BC is the only province in the country where we still have MSP, but we are going to eliminate the MSP in stages, so that will be completely taken off. Thank you.
Thank you. And Father Ibarra,
Thank you. This is a great question for the BC Greens. We were the ones that raised the issue of MSP in the House. Our leader, Andrew Weaver, raised it as a private member's bill after he met with seniors saying that having to pay MSP was a serious burden. Students also came in, young people, young families, and told him about this. We were the ones that raised this as a big issue in this election. And it came from seniors. So we are the party that has put forward a complete elimination of MSP, rolling it into income taxes and making it a progressive tax. The more you make, the more you pay. So if you don't make enough money, you don't pay it. This is how other jurisdictions in Canada do it. BC is way behind. That money that you pay does not go to healthcare. It goes into a slush fund for the BC government. And also in terms of seniors, we are investing $35 million over 4 years in home care so seniors can stay at home as long as possible. We're also going to improve the level of care in residential homes. There are no standards for private care homes, and some of the treatment that people experience in those homes is absolutely appalling. I know my parents went through that. We also have a program to make prescription drugs more affordable by developing and implementing an essential drugs program beginning in 2019, designed to reduce the cost of essential prescription drugs, similar to what they're doing in Ontario right now.
Thank you. Certainly, you have a chance for the comment.
So in our platform, we understand, oh, sorry. Gotta watch this guy too. So we understand the challenges of a growing economy and aging parents in society. I live with my mother-in-law who's got Parkinson's and can't actually do anything, so we had to feed her, we have to take her to the bathroom, we have to do everything for her. My parents as well are also aging. So we understand the needs of our aging parents these days. We need to help them, so we need to know that all families and members are able to stay with the ones that they love. Because we have a growing economy, a stable economy, we have a AAA credit rating, we are able to invest. We have invested $24,000 into new units of affordable housing. Since 2001, we have put $4.9 billion to provide for affordable housing. Our government is committed to an additional $920 million to affordable housing and 5,300 new units of affordable housing. We can make these investments because we have a strong economy and a balanced budget. Okay, my time was up.
Thank you. Next question is for Rita. I have a couple of questions, and all these questions about similar topics, just to save time. Now, it's going to come down to, let's say, two things. One is federal government is decriminalizing possession of marijuana. So how would it is going to affect, there is concern that it will affect young kids, youth, and we already have a big problem of violence, gang violence, shootings. How does your party plan to control the selling of it, the possession of it, and how to make sure that it doesn't affect our youth in a negative way? So possession and like decriminalization of marijuana affecting youth and gang violence, shootings.
Right. So this is a very hot topic right now. We're being asked about this a lot. Decriminalization, legalization of marijuana is something the Green Party has wanted since the 1980s. So this is a good thing. It costs the government millions and millions of dollars each year to enforce people who have been caught with marijuana. This is a huge drain on society. Legalizing it and taxing it, as they've done in places like Colorado and the States, has created a boom in taxes. There's millions and millions of dollars coming into the government now that you can use to fund addictions and mental health treatment and early intervention treatment with young people. And that's what we would plan to do with the money. Obviously, it needs tight controls. We've seen, over the years, we have a drinking age of 19. We would keep that the same legal age. We would not sell it in liquor stores. We would have it sold at separate retail outlets. We'd have to make sure that the price is competitive at the street level. If you keep the price too high, government-controlled prices, people will still buy it on the street, and you haven't alleviated the problem with gang selling it. We would treat it as a craft business, like craft beer. We would not like the multinationals to take over that. So that's, the police spend so much time chasing down these small dealers. If you take away that incentive for gangs, the entry-level drug of marijuana, you've taken away a major incentive for young people to get involved in the gangs in the first place. It's a step to keeping people out of that business in the first place.
Thank you.
The BC Liberals are committed to introducing the consumption and sale of cannabis in BC. in a manner that is practical and safe for all British Columbians, with our number one priority remaining health and safety of our children. We will work with health and public safety officials to ensure that our 3 principles on cannabis legalization are respected. Keep it out of the hands of our minors. Keep the profits out of organized crime, and ensure quality control and appropriate labeling. When elected, as your today's BC Liberals, will immediately form an expert panel made up of health and public safety experts to advise on the development and the implementation of the regulation that brings the cannabis industry out of the hands of criminals and under a strictly monitored and enforced regulatory framework.
Thank you. And a vote from Guildford.
Thank you. I can't resist the opportunity to remind you that this was one of Justin Trudeau's pet projects, the legalization. No matter what you think of it, we know here in British Columbia and all across the country that on July 1st, 2018, marijuana will be legal in this country. So the onus is upon us to come up with a system that regulates it in a way that is equitable and fair for everyone concerned. The BC New Democratic Party, as many of you know, have been ahead of this game in the sense that we sent 2 senior members of cabinet south of the border where this legalization is already in effect. Mike Farnworth and Carol James went to Colorado and Washington State to look at the system there. That's an opportunity to learn, and I'm proud of the fact that we've done it. We're principally concerned in the New Democratic Party about how we keep marijuana out of the hands of children and how we keep our families and communities safe when this happens. It's a big project. There is lots to be considered, and by virtue of the fact that we've looked at it in other jurisdictions, we're probably the party that's best positioned to come up with an effective system to deal with it.
Thank you. My next question for Sergi. Now, this question is about, under BC Liberals' watch, BC hydro rates, RCBC insurance rate went up, hydro rates went up, there are tolls on the bridges, and PST, issue of PST. So RCBC, BC hydro and tolls went up under BC Liberals' watch. What is the party's platform? What is your party's platform to handle these issues?
Well, if you noticed, our Premier and the BC Liberals care about our people. That's why they listen to the concerns, and they listen to the concerns of the tolls, that the tolls were too high. So if you were going over the bridges, 5 days a week, twice a day, you're paying approximately $1,500 a year. So we listened to the concerns and reduced that to $500. We've capped it at $500. But when I'm elected, I'm going to be the spokesperson for my constituents. Not for Christy, but for my constituents. And if they want to change that further, then I will be their spokesperson and I will bring it up. We talk about ICBC rates. Yeah, ICBC rates are going up. Just like our economy is growing here. We have more accidents. We have more people putting in claims. And we have lots of fraud happening. So what we're doing is we are investigating some of those. Why is that happening and why is that increasing? Because now we are paying out a lot more revenue towards ICBC. And then what was the other thing you asked about? MSP? For taxes. We haven't increased our taxes, actually. It's the NDP that want to tax the corporate taxes about 26%. What's the corporate taxing? is the taxing for people who have small businesses. So if you have a small little restaurant and you've got about 5 employees working for you, you're going to get taxed 26%. We are not increasing taxes.
Thank you.
I think that this is the most important question I think you should watch during the election. What you hear from liberals all the time, our economy is very good. But good for who? And they say we are going to we have brought the taxes down. But the reality is they have given tax break to the people, top 2% wealthy, well-connected, nobody else. For everybody else, they went to their pockets, they took more money from them, which is ICBC, BC Hydro. Tuition fee has gone up 300% up for our young people, 300%. MSP is double. And they still continue to claim that we have actually lowest taxes in the country. So that's what happened, and they blame the drivers for MSP. It is actually a systematic, ideological decision. They stand up with the big corporations who give them big money to run their election campaigns, and that's what happens, and they take money from the middle class people, and that's what we want to change. That's what we want to change, and we want to make life more affordable. We are going to stop that $1 billion they want to continue to give to the rich people and use that money to make life more affordable for the middle class working families.
Thank you.
I think it's kind of amazing to me that several years after the bridge toll has come into effect, that the Liberals have finally figured out that it costs $1,500 for someone to drive across it both ways every working day. I think that could have been figured out well in advance, and if it was too much money for you now, it was too much money for you then, but that was their plan and their decision. The BC Green Party recognizes that the toll actually had a purpose. It is supposed to fund and pay for the bridge. The reports have shown that the revenues from the tolls have never once yet met what the expected target was, so we're way behind paying this bridge off, and yet they're coming to us now before the election and saying that we can suddenly afford to give you money back. You don't have to pay the tolls. We have money to give back to you. You don't have to pay the tolls, even though we don't have money to fund adequate staffing levels in public senior homes. It just doesn't add up. It is right before the election, and they're offering us some money. It is short-sighted, and it does not meet the long-term objectives of good public policy. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is for Gary Beck. This question, I have all these questions related to housing. Now, we all know that there is a big housing crisis. BC Liberals have introduced 15% tax on foreign investment in housing. BC Greens, their plan is to increase the foreign tax all across BC to 30%. What is your party's plan to handle the housing crisis?
Thank you. Important to acknowledge from the outset that under the Christie-Clark government, housing is out of control here on the Lower Mainland. And that was predictable. We knew that it was happening. But when you're dealing with a government and a leader who is indebted to the real estate industry, whose chief fundraiser for a while was lovingly referred to as the condo king of Vancouver, I don't think that you can get a real depth of understanding of the problem that we're facing unless you acknowledge that. So what has happened is we have had to stand by while we've seen unaffordability become the key for our young people who want to buy their way into their first home. It's important that we support our young children, and we have committed through a plan to make it less cumbersome for young people wanting to enter the market for the first time. And you know, the other segment of housing that we always forget about is those people who decide to rent, which is a legitimate option for a lot of people. Renters are not second-class citizens. And so while there is a break for those who own homes in the form of a homeowner's grant, we've also come up with a plan so that renters will receive over a year $400. Doesn't sound like a lot of money, but to a lot of people, it is a lot of money.
Thank you. And rebuttal. Sir, please.
With a strong economy and a growing economy, it's not noticeable that BC is highly attractive. Everybody wants to live here, work here, and raise their family here. You know, there's more demand than there is supply, and that's no surprise, and that's why the housing prices have gone up, and we recognize that. You know, we recognize that it's impacted the affordability for British Columbians. So we're going to address this challenge, and we have 6 principles on how we're going to address it. We're going to make sure that our home ownership stays within the reach of the middle class. We're going to increase our housing supply. We're going to have smart transit expansion, supporting first-time home buyers, protecting our consumers, and increasing rental supply. We have already taken a strong action. We've brought in the BC Home Program, which is giving first-time buyers $37,500 interest-free, saving them $8,000 when they purchase their home.
Thank you. Now on the BC Green.
So the BC Green Party is a solutions-based party, so we always look for all the root causes of the problem. Now I'm a father of 4, and I'm anxious to have at least some of my children living close by. So what the Green Party is doing is, as was mentioned, we're going to put in a 30% foreign buyers tax, because we know there's a lot of cost pressure on driving the market up by money coming from outside. We're also going to make the whole tax system a little more fair. Right now, if you're, in terms of the property transfer tax, if you're buying a million plus home, you're going to start paying a little bit more in property transfer tax. But if you're spending less than $1 million, you're actually going to be spending a little bit less. And if you're at the very bottom of the market, you won't pay anything at all. We're also going to make sure that affordable housing is being supported by putting in 4,000 units a year in the next 4 years. And we're also going to make sure that the affordable housing that's on the market and that's falling apart is also supported. So we're going to put, I can't remember the figure, but we're going to put in annually, I think it's 20 million or more, to make sure that the existing stock is maintained and brought back up to code. So those are actually that's not even the whole list. We've got a huge list of things that we're going to do to address this problem.
Thank you. My next question is for Bruce Austin. It's regarding minimum wage increase. BCMBP's plan is to increase the minimum wage to $15. Now, small businesses are the backbone of BC's economy. There is a concern from small business community that it will increase their overhead cost, which might put them at a tough situation, and some of them it is going to put unnecessary burden on them, which consequently will be put towards consumers, because they will have to increase their prices. So how does NDP plan to handle the situation that $15 minimum wage, and how to handle it that it doesn't come out of consumers' pockets? And what is the total plan?
Okay, thank you. Yes, we do plan to raise the minimum wage to $15. We will work with small business owners. It will be phased in over 4 years. Christy Clark, when she first became Premier, raised the minimum wage. Gordon Campbell had not raised it for 10 years. When she came in, she did raise it, and I don't recall hearing a great deal of public concern about the raising of the minimum wage from small business owners. We will, so in jurisdictions where it has been raised, those people who earn that money spend their money in the local community and businesses benefit. In addition, we will also lower the small business tax rate from 2.5% to 2%. So that will be an offsetting benefit to small business. We value the small business sector, and I know many of you are employed or own small businesses. We respect those businesses, and we want to see them continue to thrive and prosper. But I'm convinced that people who work full-time deserve a decent wage, and we will implement that over the period of time. I think we'll all be better off for it.
Thank you. Rebuttal from the Green.
We recognize that the minimum wage keeps people at the poverty level, and keeping people at the poverty level throughout a good part of their lives creates all sorts of other insecurities that affects their health, their ability to participate into society. It leads, if you're always afraid of paycheck to paycheck that you could be homeless, this produces all sorts of other effects in society that we all feel and makes you vulnerable. What we're proposing is a fair wage commission. So $15 is a nice buzzword, but is that the right amount? We're not sure. $15 in some cities is okay. $15 in Vancouver is nothing. It still keeps you very poor. So we would study this in a lot more depth, and we would have relief for small businesses. We want small businesses to employ people. We want medium-sized businesses to employ people. Obviously, increasing the minimum wage is going to be a burden, and we will offset that. We also have a comprehensive program to implement a pilot program of guaranteed livable income for those people who are on welfare or transitioning out of foster care, for example. Keeping income flowing in our society is key.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a really, really good, fair question. If you raise the minimum wage to $15, I agree, this is going to be really hard on businesses. Now they've got all these employees, and they're all getting paid $15 an hour. They're going to end up shutting down their businesses, because how are they going to afford to pay for them? And my colleague, my opponent here, Bruce, was exactly right. Christy Clark, the Premier, has increased the minimum wage. What is the rate of inflation? 2%? I tell you, she has increased the minimum wage by 4% every year. And we continue to do that again this year in September, and it's been done every year in September. So it will be increased again by 4%, higher than inflation.
Thank you. Now it's time for evening prayer Maghrib Salah. We'll have about 5 to 10 minutes break. And when we come back, it'll take about 20 minutes to wrap it up.
We have about 10 to 15 minutes more to go to finish that lap of the program. I don't know if our members want to continue and finish it up before prayer, or we pray and then we start again.
Mr. President, I have a meeting, so I have to excuse myself. I respect everyone, but I didn't know that this could go that far. I do have another meeting, so with due respect, so I have to leave.
Thank you. Everybody has a time constraint, so what we'll do, we'll give another 10 minutes to finish it up, and then after that we'll pray. 10 minutes are the last. Right?
Yeah, I can probably give you. I can just give you a suggestion. If for the concluding remarks, if one person from each party can do it, I think that could save some time. And we can just do that, right?
One last question, and then one of us will give everybody.
Okay, next question for Jody Murphy. Is there any difference between the federal wing of your party and the provincial wing of your party? Like there is a Green Party at the federal level and provincial, same with others. Can you explain it to you? Is there any difference between your party at the federal level and provincial level? Or is it the same, one party or two different parties?
I'm a member and a representative of the provincial party, the BC Green Party, not the federal party. So I'm not fully able to describe if there are major differences between the two, other than the fact that obviously the federal level party is focused on the federal government's levels of concern, like immigration, taxation, and crime, and whereas provincial looks at the more provincial level responsibilities like healthcare and education and regional transportation. Sorry, I don't have anything else. We are united in our name. I do think that you likely see much bigger differences between federal and provincial level parties. If you look at, for example, the BC Liberal Party, although they are called the Liberal Party, they're very, very different from the federal level party, which is the provincial party of BC Liberals is definitely more of a conservative party. But for the Greens, we're definitely on the same side of the spectrum, at least, with our federal counterpart. Thanks.
Sure. The provincial NDP makes its own rules, makes its own policy, and sometimes we even disagree between different provincial sections. I think we share the same values. I don't think anyone should be fooled by the BC Liberal Party by the name. In fact, most of the senior members in the cabinet that I sat across from in the legislature are members of the federal Tory party, the party that brought you the barbaric Cultural Practices Act that advocated Islamophobia under Mr. Harper. They're a different party, but they share many of the same values, I'm afraid.
Despite whatever party you're from, whether you're BC Liberal in provincial or BC Liberal in Ottawa, we still all have to work together. We all have different values, and we all have a different set of rules and regulations, but we all still need to work together. There are more parties, I believe, federally than there are provincially. But at the end of the day, we all need to work together, and we need to work for what's best for British Columbians, because these are the people that we care about and we love. We're going to continue to do that.
Thank you. Now, we are done with the questions, so in 1 minute, if you can describe in one minute sell yourself, and if you can describe yourself in one word, you have 1 minute to sell to the people. So we can start with the Senti Surgery Chima.
One party, because I said, excuse me, I have a meeting. So
Okay, maybe we can start with you.
You can go first. And then
You can go first. Okay, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks a lot. I know you have heard a lot. I really appreciate that you have organized this, and I'd love to come here and talk about the platform, the elections on May 9th. And I must say that everybody must go out and cast your ballot. And when you do that, look at what different platform, what the reality is. I just want to conclude by saying in the last election, Christy Clark promised to you a 3 mega LNG project, $100 billion prosperity fund, 100,000 jobs. Absolutely nothing happened. So you can't trust her. We have a very clear plan, which is that we are going to make life more affordable. Under that, the tolls will be gone, MSP will be gone, there will be $10 a day daycare, and we are going to improve the wait time at Surrey Memorial Hospital by opening neighborhood urgent care centers, and we are going to create 95,000 jobs for building hospitals, schools, roads in BC. Thank you. Thanks for your time once again.
Thank you. Now we can review the you have 1 minute to...
Oh, my turn? Oh, sorry.
Everybody will have 1 minute. Now start with you.
Sorry. My grandfather journeyed long and hard in 1908. He walked from Bellingham on the railroad track till he hit the border down here in Peace Arch or whatever it was in those days, I'm not sure, in 1908. He did this to make a better life for his family and his siblings. My father came to Canada on a Canadian passport in 1954 to make a better life for his family and his siblings. Today, I want to make a better life for all British Columbians. I want to continue the work of the BC Liberals in ensuring that we have a strong economy. My priorities are safe streets, quality health care, And the one gift that we can give to our children is the best education. Go out and vote on May the 9th and vote for the BC Liberals to continue growing our economy.
Thank you. Gary Beck, I want to tell you something.
Thank you, and thanks again for the opportunity to meet with you and listen to you. I think it's all about trust. Who do you trust in this election? You know the history of the BC Liberal Party. You know the promises that were made. The question you have to ask yourself is, did they deliver on the promises? And if the answer is no, then you know that you have to vote for change, because I believe this is a change election. I believe we have to challenge the Liberal Party. We have to say it's not all right to lose your way morally. I don't think the BC Liberal Party has a moral compass that is guiding them through this. When you think of all of the scandals connected with the Liberal Party of British Columbia, the triple deletes, the questionable funding, how could you trust them to do any different in the next 4 years? I'm a proud member of the New Democratic Party of British Columbia because it shares my values. And my values are with people. And you need to have a government that puts people before profits. The only answer is to vote for the BC NDP.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you to the community for welcoming us here. It's a characteristically warm welcome from the community that I receive pretty well anywhere I go to an event where Muslims are present and running the event. I think there are some very clear choices in this election. The BC Liberals made a lot of promises before the last election, which the group talked about. The election before, they promised they wouldn't bring in an HST, and within 45 days they were already back in the legislature trying to ram that through the legislature. So you can't trust them. They govern for the top 2%, the people that pay $25,000 and $50,000 to have dinner with the Premier. She governs for them. She doesn't govern for you. She doesn't govern for me. She governs for them. And it's about time the people of British Columbia had a Premier and a party who are going to govern for the majority of the population, not just the wealthy and the well-connected. And that's your clear and stark choice in this election. So please support the BC NDP. We've got a lot of great candidates throughout Surrey and Langley, and I encourage you to vote for them.
Yes, thank you for having us here tonight and delaying some of your regular activities so that we could wrap up. I'm generally not someone who would be very good about trying to sell myself or talk about some great strength of mine, but this is the first time I've run as a candidate in an election, and before I made a decision to do that, I had to think about what I really had to offer as a candidate. And I thought about the work that I did over the last 10 years. I reported directly to the president of my company, and I advised him on many important issues. And he chose me for that role because he felt that I had very strong integrity. And he told me that I was never afraid to do something that was difficult if I really believed it was the right thing to do. And I think that that is a very strong value to bring into the dialogue of politics today, because we're often looking at all the candidates on the ballot, and maybe we see what they stand for their parties, but we really don't know enough about them as people, and we have to have a feeling of trust for the people that we want to give our vote for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your work, I'm managing engineers, and we're problem solvers. And so when you come to a problem, you have to find out what the root cause is, and then you have to gather some other information, you have to talk to people. But at the end of the day, you also have to be able to make a hard decision. Now, when you're in government, you are balancing goods. You have competing goods. So what you need are people in place that know how to balance goods, make decisions, but at the same time, they have to be able to listen to the people and respect it, and also be willing to change if they see that their direction is wrong, and they're be willing to change. My experience gives me that ability, and I'm also very glad that I'm able to run for the Green Party. I think that Part of the problem with the dialogue right now is that the other parties are too busy saying what they're not, and instead of saying what they are. And I think the Green Party has put forward a very positive platform, and I encourage you to go to the website and have a look, have a read. I'm sure you'll be impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last but not least again, to wrap everything up. Well, my personal story is that since I was very young, I was concerned about issues. I gave away my first babysitting money to save wolves and ban the leg hold trap. It's something that's been in me a long time to work for a better world. And I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations as an activist. I've signed a lot of petitions. I've knocked on a lot of doors, volunteering for, like I said at the beginning, I have been an integral part of NDP campaigns and federal Liberal campaigns before I joined the Greens. And as the story of our leader, Andrew Weaver, often says that he never thought he'd be in politics, he was a scientist. And suddenly it's like, well, you have to eventually just step up. And this is a really hard thing for me to do, to actually be a candidate. But it came to the point where I thought, well, I can't keep complaining about the system if I'm not willing to step forward and actually be part of the solution. And I think our party is made up of a lot of people like Jody and Tim and I who are just ordinary citizens that are just angry and really want to make a change. We're not as polished as some of the other people, as you probably noticed. It's because we're not used to doing this and we're nervous, but we're working really hard and we're terribly honest. And I hope you appreciate that, and I hope you will consider the Green Party as a third option in this election.
Now, before I invite President of this mosque, Brother Wasim Malik, I would like to personally thank all the brothers who are here and all the candidates who are here, especially Brother Yusuf for his contributions as well. Now I would like to call upon the President of this masjid, Brother Wasim Malik, to conclude the program.
Thank you, Brother Sundar. What an opportunity we have here. Very good talk about the politics, and we came to know about our candidates, to who to vote. I guess this will help all of us to make our decision. And this is the time to put the program. We hope the issues and concerns raised were helpful. If you still have any questions, you will have the time to read your candidates after the rest of the program. What would I like to say? This is the opportunity for all the community, Muslim community, to go off for the vote at 9th of May. There are a couple of other ways you can vote. If you're not available 9th of May, you can go out. There are some polling stations available for the community. And you can have the card at your home that describes your provincial election. If you are a Canadian citizen, will be at least 18 years old, general voting day, have been a resident of BC for 6 months immediately before general voting day, are registered as a voter and are not disqualified for voting. Advanced voting is available throughout the province from 8. Everybody has joined it and they can make their decision to whom to vote. Thank you. I really appreciate all of the audience who were here. They listened very patiently and they encouraged all the candidates. Thank you.